Let him celebrate his birthday alone. My mom chuckled. We're not wasting money on that. Thanks for the clarity, I replied calmly. That's the last cent you'll ever get from me. I emptied the shared bank account, blocked all their numbers, and watched from the balcony as the chaos unfolded. My name's Ryan, the oldest child in the family, the dependable one, the person everyone turned to when things went wrong, the one expected to hold everything together, no matter the cost. And for a long time, that's exactly what I did. Not because they forced me to, not because they begged, though they certainly did plenty of that. I kept helping because deep down, I believed that if I just kept giving, if I just kept supporting, they might finally see me as more than a walking bank. That one day, they'd treat me like family, not just a fallback plan. Now looking back, I can't believe I ever thought that was possible. My parents weren't cruel in the loud, obvious way. They didn't yell. They didn't hit. They didn't smash things. Their selfishness was quiet, subtle. It showed in the way they assumed I'd help, without even asking. In the way they viewed me as someone whose only role was to provide. My younger siblings caught on early. They learned fast that if they needed help, whether it was money, a ride, or fixing something, I was the one who'd handle it, and I did. Every single time, I kept telling myself it was only temporary, that once they were stable, once life got easier, they'd finally appreciate me the way I hoped they would, but that day never came. There was always some new excuse. Another bill, another problem. To make it easier for them, I even set up a shared bank account. That way, they wouldn't have to ask. They could just take what they needed, whenever they wanted. I thought it would show them that I cared, that I was doing this out of choice, not guilt or obligation. But nothing changed. And then came my birthday. Growing up, birthdays were never really a thing for me. It was always just another regular day. There was always some reason why we couldn't celebrate. No money, someone was sick, or just bad timing. But every year I held on to a little hope that maybe this time would be different. So this year, I kept it simple. I reserved a table at a nice restaurant, gave everyone plenty of notice, and even offered to cover the entire bill. I didn't ask for gifts. I wasn't expecting balloons. I just wanted one evening, one night together, where for once I could feel like more than just their financial safety net. Their responses, cold and dismissive. "Well, think about it," my mom muttered. "We're broke this week," my dad added. "Doubt I'll be free," my brother shrugged. My sister didn't even bother to look up from her phone. I didn't argue. I just smiled slightly, and pretended it didn't bother me. 2 days before my birthday, my cousin called. "Hey, I'm not sure if I should even tell you this," he started. "What's going on?" I asked, leaning in. "I stopped by your parents' place yesterday. They were planning a little getaway." I sat up straighter. "A trip?" "Yeah, just the two of them. Water parks, hot tubs, fancy hotel rooms." My stomach twisted. "Did they ask if I was going?" I asked quietly. He paused. "I did ask." "Your mom just laughed and said, 'Let him have his birthday alone. We're not wasting money on that.'" I didn't say anything for a moment. "They told me not to mention it," he added. "But honestly, man, that's pretty messed up." I let out a slow breath. Strangely, I didn't feel angry. What I felt was clarity. All this time, I'd convinced myself that giving would earn me love, that if I just kept helping, they'd eventually see me as more than just a living wallet. But when the moment came for them to make even the smallest effort, I wasn't worth it. I laughed, a real laugh, not bitter, but clear. "Thanks for telling me," I said softly, then ended the call. I logged into the shared account and withdrew every last dollar. 3 days later, the fallout hit. The morning after my birthday, my phone blew up with notifications. I expected drama, just not this fast. Missed calls, first from mom, then dad, then my brother, then my sister. Messages flooded in. "Mom, Ryan, answer the phone. Now, Dad. Where did the money go?" "Mom again. Did you drain the account?" "Brother, what's your problem, man?" "Sister, seriously, what is wrong with you?" I didn't reply. I didn't say a word. I ignored them all. I was still lying in bed, a little dazed from the night before. Strangely enough, my birthday had been great. My cousin and a few real friends had joined me at the restaurant. There were no awkward silences, no fake smiles, Just honest conversation and good food. For the first time in a long while, the day had actually felt like mine. Not something I was forced to endure. Then the phone rang again. With a sigh, I finally answered. It was my mother. "Ryan, what on earth did you do?" "Nice to hear from you too," I yawned, stretching. "Don't play games. The shared account. Where's the money?" I chuckled. "Oh, that?" I closed it. There was a long silence. Then I heard her sharp inhale. "You had no right to do that," she snapped. "That money was for everyone." "For everyone?" I repeated calmly. "Like the vacation you and Dad planned without me?" She didn't answer right away, but I could hear her breathing on the other end. "Who told you about that?" I let out a small laugh. "Does it really make a difference?" "Ryan, we were going to tell you," she started, but her sentence trailed off as she realized there was no good excuse. "We just needed a short break. You have no idea how exhausting life has been." "You're right," I replied calmly. "I don't understand, because I've spent years giving, hoping that one day you'd care enough to give something back, but the moment it was my turn, you left me out." "That's not fair," she snapped. "You're taking this way too far. We were going to celebrate your birthday after the trip." "Oh sure, maybe you'd bring me back a cheap souvenir." "Ryan, stop it. This isn't funny. And treating your child like an endless ATM for years, was that supposed to be funny?" She tried to reply, but I ended the call. For the first time in years, I felt truly at peace. About 20 minutes later, loud knocking echoed through the apartment. Still a little foggy, I got out of bed and peeked through the peephole. It was my father. I opened the door slightly. "Why are you here?" He shoved the door open and barged into the apartment. "Where's the money, Ryan?" I stepped back, stunned. "You're actually serious?" "Absolutely," he growled. "We need that money." I crossed my arms. "Oh right, for the getaway? The fancy hotel? The hot tub?" His face turned red. "That was family money." I raised an eyebrow. "Strange, I don't remember you ever contributing a single cent." His jaw clenched tight. "You'd better fix this. Now." I let out a quiet scoff. "Or what?" He said nothing, just stared at me, like he expected me to cave, like I always had before, but not this time. I held his gaze. "Get out of my apartment, Dad." He jabbed a finger at me. "This isn't over." "I know," I said, "and that's the best part." He turned and slammed the door so hard the walls rattled. I locked it, then sat down, my heart still racing. A few minutes later, the phone rang again, this time an unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. "Hello?" A deep, formal voice replied. "Hello, Ryan. This is Officer Reynolds, from the town police station. We need to speak with you regarding a complaint about missing funds, filed by your parents." I almost laughed. They were really that desperate. I paused for a moment, the phone pressed to my ear, a small smile spreading across my face. A theft complaint, even for them, that was a new low. The officer went on, explaining that my parents had reported I'd withdrawn money from a shared family account, and that they wanted to discuss the matter. I politely explained that the account had been created by me, funded by me, and closed by me. No one else had ever deposited a single cent. Nothing was stolen. I added that if they wanted to continue pursuing it, they were welcome to, but it would only waste everyone's time. There was a pause, then the officer admitted my parents hadn't provided any proof of contributing to the account. He even sounded a little embarrassed to be making the call. He said unless they came up with actual records, the matter would be dropped. I thanked him and hung up. Not even 20 minutes passed before my phone lit up again. This time it was my brother. I let it ring, then my sister, then my mom. I didn't answer any of them. By noon the tone of the messages had completely changed. At first they were furious, calling me selfish, cold and ungrateful. My sister sent a long emotional message, blaming me for tearing the family apart. My brother claimed I was overreacting about a harmless little trip. My dad, true to form, didn't text, he just kept calling, over and over. When they realized I wasn't going to answer, the guilt trip started. My mom flipped the script, claiming she was heartbroken, that she'd never raised me to be so heartless. She painted the picture like I had abandoned them, like I hadn't spent years covering their bills, helping out, and hoping for even a fraction of appreciation. I stayed silent. Just when I thought they'd run out of ways to reach me, My cousin called again. This time his voice sounded nervous. "They're not just upset," he said. "They're furious. They've been calling everyone in the family, twisting the whole story, making you out to be the bad guy. They told everyone you stole from them, and disappeared when they needed you most. And the worst part, some of them actually believed it." He warned me there'd be more calls and messages coming, and then, almost as an afterthought, he added, "They're still going on the vacation." I actually couldn't help but laugh. After all the shouting, the drama, even calling the police, they still had the audacity to go on the trip. But it didn't stop there. The next day, I got a message from an unknown number. It was a screenshot, a hotel reservation, made under my name. My parents had used my credit card to pay for their luxury resort stay. I stared at the image, my stomach twisting. My name, my card, my money. Somehow they had gotten access. I paused, trying to figure it out. I had already closed the shared account. I had even taken extra steps to lock everything down. And then I remembered, years ago I had given them one of my credit cards for emergencies. They must have kept the info. I opened my banking app, and there it was, a pending charge. But it wasn't for a regular room. It was for 2 bookings. A premium suite at a luxury hotel. This wasn't just a last-minute getaway. They had gone all out, using my identity. This wasn't just wrong, it was criminal. I called the bank immediately, explained the situation, and the agent was really kind. They blocked the charge, canceled the card, and promised to send me a new one. I asked where the booking had been made, and it turned out the hotel wasn't even that far, just a few hours' drive from where I lived. A high-end property. I sat there holding my phone, trying to decide what to do next. This wasn't about money anymore. They weren't just leaning on me, they were crossing legal lines. And they expected me to sit quietly. But I didn't. I contacted the hotel, explained everything, and sent proof that I was the real cardholder, and the charge was unauthorized. The front desk was professional but clear. They couldn't let anyone stay using stolen card info. The reservation was cancelled on the spot. But I wasn't done. I called my cousin. "Feel like taking a short drive?" I asked. An hour later we were on the road heading straight for the hotel. I didn't tell him everything, just enough for him to understand my parents had crossed the line again, and I was finally done playing nice. He laughed and agreed to come along. Even he, who'd always suspected they were using me, couldn't believe how far they'd gone this time. We arrived later in the day. I walked into the lobby and calmly approached the front desk. "Have the guests under this name checked in yet?" I asked. The woman behind the counter paused, then nodded slowly. "They arrived earlier today, but ran into a problem." She explained that once the booking was cancelled, my parents caused a huge scene. They argued, yelled, even begged the staff to fix it. When that didn't work, they tried to pay for another room, but none of their cards worked. I felt a wave of satisfaction. For once they hadn't gotten away with it. "Where are they now?" I asked. The woman smiled politely. "They left not long ago, looked very unhappy." I turned to my cousin, smiling. "Let's book a room," and we did, at the exact same hotel they tried to stay at. Only this time, the room was paid for honestly, by me for me. That night, we sat near the spa, drinks in hand, enjoying the calm evening sky. No guilt, no pressure, no chaos. Just peace. I knew the real storm wasn't over. I knew my parents would push back harder than ever. But for the first time in years, I wasn't scared. I was ready. And the next morning, when I woke up, my phone was already flooded with missed calls and messages, just like I'd expected. "Mom, what did you do? Dad, you ungrateful brat. Fix this now. Brother, dude, are you serious? You ditched her? Sister, you're such a total a-hole." I took a sip of my coffee, scrolling through the chaos from the balcony of my hotel room. My cousin was still fast asleep, but I had a feeling this day was going to be eventful. I was about to set my phone to do not disturb, when another alert came in. "Mom, we're on our way to find you." My eyebrows raised in surprise. That caught me off guard. I expected them to sulk at home and come up with their next strategy, but they weren't waiting. They were heading straight for me. I thought about my options. I could pack my things, leave early and avoid the confrontation, or I could stay and face them head on. I chose the second option. Roughly 2 hours later, I was lounging by the pool when I saw them. My mother, father, brother, and sister were marching toward me like they were ready for a showdown. Other hotel guests turned to watch as their voices grew louder with every step. "What's wrong with you?" my father shouted. "You left us with nowhere to stay." I lowered my sunglasses and replied, "Didn't you bring your own car? You canceled our hotel." My mom screamed, "We're stuck with nowhere to sleep." I casually shrugged. "Not my issue." My brother stared at me like I was a stranger. "You really don't see how messed up this." I set my drink down and sat up. "Oh, I see exactly how twisted this is. You used my credit card to plan your trip without telling me, and you thought I wouldn't find out. Then, when it all went wrong, you acted like I ruined it." My sister crossed her arm. "We figured you'd act like a normal person." I laughed. "Normal? You mean like how you ignored my birthday? Or how you've treated me like a walking wallet for years?" My dad's face turned red. "This isn't how people treat their own family." I stood up, done with pretending. "No, you don't get to say that. Family isn't about taking and only caring when the money stops. You've had endless chances to treat me like a person, and you never did. For once no one had a comeback." My mom looked frozen, like she couldn't believe I was finally standing up for myself. My dad muttered something under his breath, and then they turned around. No apology, no admission, just bitterness, because I had stopped being their doormat. I watched them walk away, and for the first time in a long time, I felt free. As they disappeared through the parking lot, I stayed where I was. I half expected my mom to spin around for one last emotional jab. One final attempt to make me give in, but she didn't. Maybe even she knew it wouldn't work anymore. My cousin came over and handed me a fresh drink. He had been watching from a distance, giving me space to handle it myself. "That wasn't too bad," he said with a grin. I let out a breath and shook my head. "You think that went well?" "Well, they're gone, aren't they?" I didn't say anything right away. "Gone? Sure, but for how long?" Part of me still felt like the next round was coming. More calls, more guilt, more attempts to drag me back. But then something unexpected happened. Time passed. First a few hours, then an entire day, then another, and for the first time in as long as I could remember, everything was quiet. No begging, no lies, no sudden fake emergencies trying to pull me back into their drama. At first it felt strange, like something was off. I had spent so long being needed, being used, that their silence almost felt unnatural. I kept checking my phone out of habit, half expecting another dramatic message to pop up. But nothing came. On the third day my cousin looked over at me and said, "You look off." I glanced up. "Off how?" "Like you're waiting for a call." I paused, then set my phone down. "Maybe I am." He leaned back. "Do you want them to?" I didn't know what to say. I wasn't sure how I felt. Part of me felt lighter than I hadn't felt this way in years. No more demands, no more giving everything and getting nothing back. But another part of me couldn't ignore the truth. They were still my relatives. No matter how much they took advantage of me, no matter how selfish they had been, it was hard to accept that they were willing to let me go that easily. My cousin probably noticed the look of doubt on my face, because he sighed and said, "Look, I know it's tough, but seriously, if you weren't handing them money, what exactly did they contribute to your life?" I said nothing. "Exactly," he continued. "They only ever called when they needed something. They only came around if they could benefit in some way. Do you really think that's going to change?" I swallowed the tightness in my throat. "They're still my parents," he shot back. "Didn't stop them from treating you like their personal bank account." I didn't want to face it, but he was right. If my parents truly cared, they would have shown it by now. They would have apologized. They would have done something, anything to make things right. But they hadn't, because I was no longer valuable to them. I wasn't a constant cash flow anymore. So now I wasn't worth their time. That truth hit me harder than I expected. I slowly exhaled and ran my hand through my hair. "So what do I do now?" My cousin shrugged. "Now you move forward without them, and trust me, it'll be the best decision you've made." I stared out at the water, letting that truth sink in. I had spent years chasing something that never existed. I thought if I just kept giving and giving, I'd eventually be seen, loved and appreciated. But love isn't something you can buy. And if someone only respects you for what you give them, Then they never respected you at all. I grabbed my drink, took a slow sip, and for once I felt peace. Yeah, I said quietly, you're right. And right then I let them go. As the months went by, not having them in my life felt strange at first. I'd been the fixer for so long that their absence created an unfamiliar quiet. But with time, I realized it wasn't emptiness I was feeling, it was no more surprise emergencies in the middle of the night. No more manipulation. No more watching my bank account shrink just to avoid arguments. For the first time in what felt like forever, my paycheck stayed mine. My calendar was my own. My peace couldn't be bought anymore. And just like I expected, my parents never contacted me. No apologies, no attempts to reconnect. Not even a text. Nothing. And that silence proved what I already knew deep down. They never cared about me. Only what I gave them. Then one random afternoon, my cousin called again. Bro, you're not going to believe what happened, he said, practically laughing into the phone. I raised an eyebrow. Do I even want to know? He took a deep breath and dropped the news. Your parents? Yeah, they just got scammed. That got my full attention. Wait. What? They fell for one of those fake investment scams. You know, the ones where a fake businessman says he'll double your money if you send him a small payment first. I blinked. You're joking. I wish, he said, cracking up. They sent like 10 grand and they didn't even have. They took out a loan to do it. I sat down in disbelief. So they had 10,000 to give to a stranger but couldn't spare $100 to come to my birthday dinner. Exactly. I shook my head, somewhere between stunned and amused. My parents, who had spent years trying to squeeze every dollar out of me, had willingly handed a fortune to some random scammer online. Karma had officially arrived. Do they know they got played? I asked. Oh yeah, he said. They're freaking out. Tried calling the bank and everything. But because they sent the money willingly, the bank can't reverse it. Now they're stuck in debt. I couldn't help it. I laughed. A full, deep, real laugh. After years of them treating me like their personal bank account, after all the guilt trips, the pressure and the manipulation, this is how it turned out. They gave thousands to a scam because they thought they were too clever to be fooled. The justice was priceless. My cousin Chuck, bet they're wishing they still had your money right now. No doubt. I said. He paused, then asked, you thinking about reaching out? I thought for a second, then smiled.